Survivor's ready. Go!
Travis spoken.
Boston Rob and Amber are gonna do it.
This is a business trip, as I like to say.
You Brad Culpepper.
I'm tired of you and the fucking chicken.
You can call me the puppet master. They can be my little puppets.
It's not like you're making me deal with the devil here.
You get to milk your own milk, I guess.
We got enough rocks here, too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
I'm supposed to talk loud.
Direct from Hobart, it's time for the only Survivor podcast in Australia dedicated to Survivor, bringing you today's interviews, episodes, and opinions from the greatest reality show on the planet. It's Survivor Oz, and here's your host.
Hello everyone, welcome to Survivor Oz. We are here for yet another Ozlet show, recapping the 10th episode of Survivor Kaoh Rong. My name is Patrick Gustafson, back by less than popular demand to host, and I am joined by two Ozlets to discuss this episode with me. Appearing for the first time this season, it is Julian Groneberg. Julian, welcome to the Ozlet show.
Hello, Paddy. Yes, it feels like I've been gone for ages, and it has been a couple of months, so it's nice to be back and talking a little bit of this exciting season that we all thought was going to be quite shit, but it's turning out to be very exciting indeed, especially the episode which you've seen.
We are very, very happy to have you here, and also returning for his... Well, he's been on a lot of times, Anthony Rossi. Rossi, welcome back.
Thanks for that warm intro, Pat. Good to be back.
Well, we are very happy to have you here. So, as Julian said, very interesting episode. I think we should get right into it with some general thoughts. Julian, what did you think of the episode, and perhaps, go into a bit more on why you think this season is so exciting?
Well, so the episode was one of those ones you're like, what way is it going to go? Like, are the Aubrey Alliance going to eat one of their own, or are Jason and Scott going to get their comeuppance? And that was the whole conflict, the whole episode. I was just wondering which way is it going to go, because Scott just seems so assured, and last week I actually thought one of them would be going home, but they didn't. So then I was like, I don't want to get my hopes up, because I was actually really wanting, either. And when Jason won immunity, I was like, now he's safe. And I didn't actually see that coming with Ty, but it was just such a juicy blindside, and the awkwardness of, them wanting to see if Ty was going to give Scott his idol, and just that pause. It was just awesome. And that's, I think, just because the reason it's been a good season has been because of those two guys, like Scott and Jason. They've been sort of the villains, and there's been really good characters, like seeing a character like Ty, Debbie. That's what we say in past seasons, what makes a real good season, just the characters. And it's been really nice to have that refreshing change this season. It's been a really good cast. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Oh, all right, Rossi. I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to have to say about your thoughts on this episode, so go for it. Let it out.
It was amazing. You see the villain fall, and you see the biggest idiot or the biggest jackass of the season scrambling. It's great. And I do disagree with Julian a bit. The villains don't make the season for me, but we'll get into that later.
Now, the thing about this episode that really just gets me, and it's really about the move, which I'm sure we will get into to a great deal of extent in a little bit, was that, after 32 seasons, and, they're on the 16th year, that this show can still have you on the edge of your seat, and you could feel that emotion. Something new can still happen, 32 seasons in. It was great. I really enjoyed it. I'm a bit torn on, my thoughts on the move exactly and how I feel, but we'll get into that. Before the move, I feel in the episode there's really only one other kind of talking point, another little twist I feel we should get our thoughts on, and that's the reward challenge. I think it was pretty wonderful that on 420 both of the challenges had to do with pots. I don't know how much of a coincidence that can be, but still.
It's a great observation.
Everyone was all over that on social media. So the big thing was, keep your leg on balance in the pot. We've seen it tons of times in several different formats, but the real thing was, playing for three different things. You had, letters from home, nourishment via food, and then the advantage. I think we should just start with, what do you guys think of how they're doing with this twist? How do you like this twist? Rossi, go ahead and start.
At first I was really skeptical of it, just because I seemed really kind of unfair that, I don't know, it just seemed really off for me at first. I'm not sure quite exactly what I was thinking, but I'm glad it turned out where you were only competing against the set people, whereas someone couldn't make a clean sweep or only get one. I think it was interesting to see who wanted to compete for what. And I was personally shocked that a lot of people weren't going for the advantage. I'm surprised people like Scott and Jason went for the food.
Yeah, those are some big guys. They've got to get their nourishment. It was kind of rewarding to actually see them lose to Michelle.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, Julian, what do you think about the twist?
I liked it. Like, I actually think I read an Entertainment Weekly article with Jeff talking about it, and he said that they sort of did this in lieu of the auction because he considered the auction broken after Worlds Apart. So I thought it was good. I was actually surprised that it was all such an even spread of people, wanting to do each one. And look, I liked it, and I think they'll do it again. But it is good because there's that layer of strategy, like, I want to pay for this to stop someone else potentially getting that, or what do you think you can beat someone else in is what you should probably play for. Because if you're not going to get, if you see, it was good that they didn't, you just don't know what other people were picking. I wish they had have shown, like, who was, they said, we're picking in secret or something like that. So I guess they didn't know what other people were doing to base their choice on, but maybe that would be interesting to see if they chose accordingly. But yeah, no, it was a good twist. I really enjoyed it. I think they'll do it again. So yeah,
I'm wondering if, like, had they done it in secret, if there was like a decision between the three guys whether or not they were going to split it up or something and try and, like, had there been that discussion, would they have picked differently? I'm wondering.
I reckon they would have. Yeah, like, it would have been good to sort of see the discussion and I don't know. Yeah,
maybe one of each, just so they can all win everything.
I would not have put that past them, but I feel like that, they wanted to prevent the manipulation, that type of thing, more of a, But my thought on it is, I don't mind the twist itself. I just feel like they need a twist. They feel they need a twist for everything, make every single part of the game strategic. When it's just a simple reward challenge. We've seen it several times throughout this season and last season. But the twist itself wasn't too bad, and obviously, I believe it was you, Rossi, that mentioned you were surprised that not everyone would go for this advantage. I'm assuming, based on, what would you guys do? What would you have chosen to go for?
Yeah, it seems like the advantage nowadays, and I don't know if they would have known this because season 32 filmed before 31, but it seems like the advantage now is always that extra vote. So it depends how much value you place in that extra vote, if that's what you think the advantage is going to be. But I don't think that's a very good advantage. So I don't know. I do think it is generally, though, still more powerful than just a bloody burger. Like, that's, if you're looking at the long-term game, you probably do want to go for the advantage. So,
well, that's actually a really good point you bring up. Season 31 aired, filmed after season 32, so they had obviously not seen the extra vote in that, and they didn't see Worlds Apart, did they? Because Cambodia started filming right after the finale and airing of Worlds Apart, so for Kaoh, they were out filming during Worlds Apart, so they may not even know. They may not even know what the twist is, so you could assume it could be another idol. Rossi, what would you...
they thought it. Yeah, no, sorry to interrupt. I think that's you're right, because they were filming this in like April or March, April of 2015, so it's a long time ago now. And so they wouldn't have seen Worlds Apart, Dan Foley, yet, I wouldn't think. So yeah,
this could be fresh and new to them. I'm assuming Ty is going to use this extra vote. It could come as a complete shock to all of them, because I don't think that at the time they would have known about it. Rossi, what would you have chosen if you were competing?
First, before I answer your question, it definitely reminds me of when I started with the final three, because for Fiji, they thought that was the first time that it had been done. And
oh yeah, that's right.
Because they never saw it in 13. So, but I would have definitely gone for the love, just because I thought everyone was going to go for advantage. So like I'd be safe going for love. I'd maybe compete against one person. So I'd probably go for that, just because I wouldn't want to have the stress of like competing against 6 other people or something.
That's honestly a really good point, because we only saw 2 people compete for the love, and one of them was Joe, who did not last very long. But yes,
No.
as we mentioned, we have seen yet another time of the extra vote. Well, technically, in terms of the producing, this was the first time that they had instilled it into the game, and obviously the first 2 times we've seen this, they were not successful, to say the least. You know, what are our thoughts here on this extra vote? Do you think it can work? Do you think this will be the last time we see it if it doesn't?
I'd love to see it work, but I honestly think, like, yeah, unless it's a 3-3 tie, or that, like, in terms of equal numbers, it's I don't know. I think it's hard to use, and unless you know exactly where people are going to place their votes, which it seems now there's less and less certainty in every season in terms of like people letting on what they're going to do and less solid alliances.
You know, and similar to what I said about the twist of the reward challenge, it's not necessarily that I don't like this thing itself, but it's just that I feel that this is like such a gimmick. You know, it almost comes off as like Big Brother. Like, a hidden immunity idol has been, you know, really the only really gimmicky thing in terms of gameplay besides this. You know, they've got different variations of it, but that's been a steady force. That is Survivor. You know, when you think of Survivor, you know, especially in more later seasons, you think of the hidden immunity idol, and it's already powerful enough. I just think this twist complicates it, and that's the part of me that, you know, wants this to fail for the 3rd time. So I think if it fails for a 3rd time, that they will never go back to it again.
I would agree with that.
Now, back with the reward challenge, let's get to the huge talking point of the episode, and that is Ty's move. Aubrey planted the seed that he should betray Scott and Jason and side against them, and you know, it was the big thing. Was he going to, you know, betray the guys, or was he going to go with them? And in the end, he decided to betray them and vote for Scott and not give him the super idol. Now, what do you think of Ty's move, Rossi?
I think, well, I'll preface it by saying I thought it was a really stupid move to give Jason back the idol. But then now that I think about it, it would have probably ruined his game, because then he'd have everyone like against him, because the girls wouldn't like him, and then now the guys wouldn't like him, so he'd have no one. But I think at the end of the day, it worked out really well, because he only really got rid of Jason as an ally. He lost Scott, may have lost his vote, but he never really has to deal with it. He only has to deal with Jason. So I think it was smart, and I think he has a little bit of wiggle room with the girls, because Julia's kind of on the outs. So I think he's okay for now. I don't think it was a great move, but I think it was a lot better than staying complacent with them.
Julian, what do you think about Ty's move? Do you think it was a good move? Think it was a bad move?
Yeah, I think it was actually better than initially thought. Like, you might say that it was a bit early, but I mean, that showed that the guys were planning on getting rid of him eventually anyway. And like Rossi said, he only lost sort of one ally. I just don't know if he would have been. I don't think he's that much better off now, like in the new alliance, but I don't know if he's sort of in a similar position in terms of like, I was not at the head of any alliance. I didn't feel either side, so I do feel like he might have carried a bit of favour. Not like Indian curry, but I think the word spelled the same way. But yeah, I do feel like he might have got some brownie points with the, and he does have good relationships with the women, and I don't know. I think it was kind of, in terms of like, I feel like sometimes it's not always like, strategically, but if he felt good about that move in terms of like what he wanted to do, sometimes that's still a good move. Like, he went with his heart or whatever, and he wanted to work with Aubrey, and that sort of feeling should be, if you listen to that, and if he felt that was a good move, then it's not necessarily a bad move for him either. So yeah, I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, no, I'm really torn on whether I think this was a good move for Ty. Eventually I do think it is going to be a good move, but just explaining both sides, part of it is that he lost some allies and potential favor in Scott and Jason, and more that he could have won easily in the final three or final two if he had gotten there with Scott or Jason, just based on his likability. And even though his strategic game may have not been on par, I just feel like they had burned so many bridges and were just so confident and unlikable that they just would have had no chance of winning whatsoever. I think it's a good move at the same time, though, because now Ty holds so much power. He eliminated another immunity idol, which was also pretty brilliant. I don't know for sure if that was a deciding factor, him, knowing that, hey, I can get Scott out and his immunity idol, leaving him with the only idol in the game. And then the fact that he also has this advantage. So, I'm going to kind of spoil this a bit now, but, I can explain more later. But right now I think Ty's going to win this game based on several factors. But with that being said, I do think that it was a pretty good move from Ty. Now, one big thing, like I said, Scott's idol is out of this game, and so the super idol is no more. I think we should just take a minute to, look back on this potential of a super idol. This is the fourth time that we've had an overpowered idol where it could be played after the vote, and it has never come into play in terms of actually being played. Rossi, do you think this is the last that we will ever see of an idol with special powers, Tyler Perry idol, super idol, anything like that? Do you think we see it again?
I don't know, because I thought we would never see it again after Cook Islands, but it came back recently. So I wouldn't write it out, but I don't think it's a favorable twist in anyone's eyes. Even producers or Jeff Probst, I don't think they love it or rave about it too much. But I think that this season really opened the possibilities of, just because it was a twist doesn't mean you can't rework it. And I think the combining was a really interesting idea, but that's a really tough sell, because you'd have to get some really loyal people for that to work, and I don't think that you're going to really get those situations that often.
Yeah, I think the real appeal of it was the whole combining of the two idols, because it's different than just saying, oh, here's an idol, it's just like any other idol, you had to do nothing more to find it, but it's special. That I feel like that's just kind of like almost giving someone too much power, but in this you had to work for it. It's not like you were just handed it. You had to make relationships and find someone else with an idol. And so I think that was interesting. I don't think that I'm not going to I can't write it off either, but I think it'll be a little bit until we see it again. Julian, do you think this concept of a super idol or a idol that can be played after the vote will ever be used again?
Yeah, I think it will, actually, depending how much longer Survivor goes for. But I think either one of the two. I don't think we'll have maybe the Tyler Perry idol, but I do think this was interesting seeing this, combined idols. I do agree with, I can't remember who said, but it's not very likely that there will be the trust that... that's what made this kind of interesting these last few episodes, ever since, Kyle and Jason and Ty sort of got together. The fact that there was a possibility looming about that this could be played. I think a lot of the times there won't be that middle person like Scott to sort of link the two up. So it's kind of like that. What I liked about it is at least it was a factor potentially in the game, even though it didn't get used. At least there was that threat of it looming. But you could have it in another season where it's just kind of like the extra vote advantage or whatever doesn't really have any effect at all. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was an interesting idea. I like to, at least they're trying things, and like a lot of people say, if they're going to try new stuff, I'm happy with that. So, yeah.
And so the ultimate victim of this massive tie flip would be Scott Pollard. Now, I think we should just take a minute here to just talk about Scott. pretty big character in the season. Rossi, I think I know what mostly your opinion on Scott, but let's hear it. Let's enlighten the viewers on what you thought about Scott this season.
Less than favorable, but he grew on me a little bit. I think he wasn't terrible, but he wasn't good. He would just, I think it was just really messy and really too in the moment thinking. And I guess that's something he's probably used to as an athlete, to think in the moment, kind of think about the situation. But he never really made great moves. He was in the discussions, and tried to control the votes, but it never really was always in his favor, and he got into too many arguments and too many bouts with too many players that he was never going to really do well.
Now, Julian, I'll defend Scott in a moment, but what do you think about Scott as not just a character, but also a player?
Decent character. You wouldn't say that he was always likable, but he wasn't unlikable either. As a player, I think we'll get to this, but he played a solid game. There was good moments and there was a lot of bad moments, so it's hard to sort of reconcile where he stands after those good and bad points. Like, he's sort of, is he in the middle? Like, he one of the better athletes we've seen, definitely. But yeah, I think as a player, is that the question? Sort of, how was he as a player, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I think if you have anything more to add on how he's been a player, yeah.
Yeah, no, not really. He's been decent, but he had some shockers. Like, the sabotage thing was not a good move, even though they'll try and say it works in their favour. That was shocking. So.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a big fan of Scott in general. I'm a bit biased being the big sports fan that I am, but, especially after seeing Cliff on Kaoh, who was just so freaking boring, I think it was nice to see Scott. He was a good character. He may not have been the most likable character, but, there have been plenty of unlikable characters that make for good characters. He had a bit of a rough episode in terms with Alicia, the spat he had with her, but it seems that Alicia really struck a chord with him and Jason based on how she behaved, and Jason was certainly a lot worse than anything that he did. But I really think Jason did bring out the worst in him, because when we were on the swap, I don't even remember the tribe name, I think it was Gondel that he was on, we saw that unlikely friendship with Ty, which was just so awesome to see this just huge, gruff guy with this, such a lovable, small, gay Asian man. That was great, and he also showed a bit of strategic prowess there too, where, he knew Ty had the idol, knew Jason had the idol, and he knew, they got to put him together for the super idol, and he convinced Ty to not play his idol and save Anna, and he got that whole alliance together. He's not a great strategic player, but he was thinking more than I think people give him credit for, but I really enjoyed him up until the sabotage episode, where that was the most childish thing I've ever seen on Survivor. If you're going to hide the axe in the machete, that's one thing. But if you're going, that doesn't work, deal with it. It didn't work. But to go and dump water on the fire while everyone is right there, that is ridiculous. And then for him to be like, oh, you betrayed me. And then of Joe, of all people, who has done near to nothing this season, to say, what do you mean we betrayed you? This is a game. You don't need to dump water on our fire. It was great to see Joe stand up to this guy like this. But and the one more thing I just need to ask about Scott, because on a few podcasts they've been saying that he is the greatest athlete to play Survivor. I mean, I know Jeff Probst likes to pretend that Guatemala didn't exist, but is that just blocked out of the memory? I mean, who do you guys think that the best athlete to ever play Survivor is? Obviously, I think it's Gary Hogeboom. So, Rossi, who do you think?
No, I disagree with you. I don't think it's Gary Hogeboom. I think it's Gary Hawkins.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. You are right. You are very right. Julian?
He's not the best athlete, but it's just, I don't know. I think I would have to say, I'm biased towards Guatemala because it's my favourite season. So Gary's just had a better social game than Scott, I think. Because even though
everybody loved him.
yeah, everyone, no one really wanted to vote him out. It was just like a set alliance. It was like he did all he could, and he was really likable. So I do want to say though how I enjoyed the way Scott just sort of laid it all out on the table. That he was, you know, he didn't try and hide that anymore. I think that was just, I don't know. I think there was something. I think that you have to. It's sort of obvious that he's so tall, and someone was going to probably spot him anyway. So I think being upfront about that right from the start was, I don't know, you could debate it strategically if it would have been better for him to try and not, but actually I think it was probably a better move for him just to be upfront about it.
That is interesting because with a lot of professional athletes, I mean, Gary's entire storyline is about that he played in the NFL, and then we saw that a little bit with Cliff and even Steve Wright in Redemption Island, but really the only times it was brought up with, you know, Scott was when, obviously, the basketball challenge. And then there was one little scene a few episodes ago where Julia and Michelle were just saying, you know, no one's going to vote for him. He doesn't need the money. So it didn't really influence what a lot of other people thought about him. So, you know, definitely one of the more entertaining athletes. I'd put him up there with Jeff Kent in terms of entertainment from an athlete. But one more question about Scott. Do you think we see Scott again? A lot of fans in the community, they go on to think, oh, this person needs to return immediately after they got voted off. Do you guys think that we will see Scott again on Survivor?
No.
No.
See?
No. Yeah, I just think there's so many people like just saying that wishful thinking wise. Like, I don't know if there's ever been a famous or pseudo celebrity or a sports person get asked back. Just from the top of my memory, so I don't see why he would.
The thing is, well, Brad was on the second chance list, and Brad was a freaking train wreck. And
yes.
Cliff was on, I think it was they cut it down to 50 of the second chance ballot, and Cliff was on that ballot, and Cliff was, you know, sleep-inducing, you know.
Yeah.
He was, and I know they want Jeff Kent back, but just that, I feel like just that, you know, the stigma of being an athlete, that's the only reason why I think he may come back, just because I feel like they want more familiar faces even on these returning player seasons. So that's pretty much it in terms of what happened in the episode. As for next week, the preview really didn't give off this strong vibe that anything in particular was going to happen. Jason said he wanted his revenge on Ty. Maybe he's going to go and behead Mark the chicken. You never know. And you saw that he was with Julia and that Ty had a lot of power. So not really much to get into next week, but what I think we should do now is we've reached a point in the game where there's only 7 players left, and pretty much most of them have pretty interesting things going on, and we can really talk about their future in the game. See, what are your thoughts on Joe, if you even have much to say? There you have it.
I think I forget who tweeted it or posted it on Facebook or something. I think it was Shane. I'm not too sure. But someone was saying, like, I wonder what Joe will do this episode. Maybe his big move of the episode will be him walking down the beach or something. And I thought that was so funny, but it's so true. It perfectly describes the situation.
And it's bizarre because he seems like, you know, he's obviously 72 years old. That's something on his own. And it seems like he's not a complete, you know, dud. You know, might not be the most exciting character, but one of those, you know, stick to your guns guys, doesn't put up with any BS. You know, we've had some decent moments from Joe, but those are the only moments he's had. Julian, what do you think about Joe? Where do you think he could wind up in the game?
I actually like the fact that he's there. Like, there's always one in every season that has the minimal edit, and he's this season's sort of Purple Kelly or whatever you want to call it. But he has had a couple of decent moments, and I think the reason he hasn't been shown is not that he can't give decent confessionals, because he's just, everyone knows where he stands. Like, he's rock solid. He's like, so he's not that relevant to the story. Like, and I think he's going to go a long way because of that. Like, he is definitely solid with Aubrey. He's probably going to be in the final 5 at least. So yeah, look, I mean, I like the fact that, I mean, we would have all said this earlier on in the season, but it's awesome that they did bring back someone old, and I hope that just because he was a bit invisible, that doesn't mean that they're like, oh, and old people are boring, because it's not necessarily the case. Like, he was awesome when he interrogated Peter.
Oh, yeah.
That was an awesome moment, and I actually think he seems like a pretty nice guy, so I like him being there, but yeah, like, he's not, who knows, like, there's still a few episodes, and I reckon he will sort of make a few appearances in the next couple of episodes.
Yeah, now my big question is, I've seen this a little bit on some social media forums. People think Joe is going to be a GOAT, and I just don't really think that. I mean, do you guys think Joe's going to be in the final three?
It's possible, actually. But I don't think he's that much of a GOAT. Like, I think the only reason people would say that is because he's had a minimal edit. So that's just easy to say, like, oh, they're the GOAT because you've barely seen any of them. And from that edit logic, then yes. But not really a GOAT, but yeah, he
would surely get no votes. I mean, based on his gameplay and what we've seen, he would surely get no votes.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's very likable too, so yeah.
Now, Rossi, do you think Joe's a finalist?
I think it really depends. In some situations, depending on who the final, like who two of the other people I could see being there, like I'm seeing these different situations, and I see Joe in some, Joe not in others. But like I'd say 2/3 of the time he's not going to be there. Maybe like the 1/3 chance he will be.
Now the big question would be though, you know, the word is there is a third medevac, and Joe is such an insignificant character and player at the moment that pretty much everybody thinks that it's going to be him. If they're, I mean, well, let's be straight here. In the preview, there was a nighttime medevac. That has not happened yet. So obviously,
oh really?
There was a doctor visit at night. I don't know for sure if it was a medevac. I don't know if Rossi knows any more than I do, but.
Is that for next week's preview, or
not for next week's preview? It was at the beginning of the season when they were talking about the toughest season ever. There was something at night, and that hasn't happened yet. So everyone is kind of just believing that it's Joe. Because I mean, the only other way I could see Joe going out is similar to Dan Lembo in Nicaragua. I mean, just because they're both grumpy old men, you know, compare them together, just kind of a fifth place, just random boot. They're not in the alliance, so let's just toss them here. So,
yeah.
It's so weird because I can't see them at the same time. I can't see anybody thinking like, oh, Joe has to go this week. You know, Joe is the target. I can't see that, but at the same time, I don't see him in the finals. Because
I feel like he might go in fifth place for some weird reason. I don't know why I think that. Like, but you know that Rick in South Pacific.
Yeah,
like
that's why. And I compared it to Dan Lembo too. Yeah.
Yeah, from Nicaragua, and I don't know. Like, that's crazy about there being a third medevac though, because I was wondering if there was going to be another one, just because I knew that. I just thought there could be, like, and he's always been tipped to be one just because of the age thing, I suppose. And like
clocked on the head with a giant block, and
yes, he had that bloody head as well. And I don't know, I think if he is, or if there is another medevac, surely then it has to be a final two. Would you guys think?
That seems to be the consensus, at least among the fans. I don't know for sure, but I don't know. Rossi, do you think final two, maybe final three?
I didn't even think that was something that happened, but it could be because a lot of people were arguing that Fans vs. Favorites 1 was a final two because of that, or I don't know if that was confirmed or that's just speculation, but
I don't know. I think that may have actually been confirmed, but then they did the same thing apparently in Cagayan, but they only had one extra boot, and it was, you know, Lindsay's quit, and usually they would be in for a double boot in an 18-player season anyway, so I don't know. It's interesting how many. I'm not even positive how many episodes are left. I know we've got 7 left, but that'll be something to look out for. I know they're in the season preview. They did show a medical visit at night. So
what is the jury going to be at? Like, I'm wondering, what are the jury numbers? Because last year we had so many. Last season was so many
They
jury.
started at 13 last season, which was obnoxious, but they started at 11 this season.
And it was interesting in last season too, like how there was still 6 in the final finale. Like, I think there was still 6 people left, so there was 3 boots.
Yeah.
So obviously they won't have that many because it's not a 20-player season, and there's been. But yeah, like it seems to be really open-ended what they're going to do with the final 2 or 3. I hope it's the final 2 actually, but.
And that would be, especially in terms of this season, but
it would get rid of that like thing we've seen in the last few seasons where 2 of them are neglected and then one of them really gets all the votes or most of the votes. Like Carolyn and Will got 1, and then last season Tasha and Spencer got nothing.
You know, it's always, it goes right back to 11 seasons ago was the last time we've had a reasonably close vote. It goes back to Nicaragua, so maybe we can predict more on a vote. That conversation, who thought that Joe would spark such a big conversation?
This is true.
I kind of
Who's
feel
the
like
next one to chat about after Joe?
I feel like, maybe we should go into this kind of least substantial characters up. There is one person that I just don't get. On the Oztopsies, all Noah does is complain about the fans. The one thing the fans are consistent about is that Michelle is going to win. I don't get that at all. I know you're a fan of Michelle Rossi. I don't know if you think she's going to win or not, but can you explain to me some of the rationale behind that? Because I just don't get it.
She definitely had the strongest game from the beginning, I think, because often you don't see winners come out of the gate swinging. It's rare to see someone be super strong. I think her game really started off well at the switch when she's really starting to think about who she can work with, who she can deal with, trying to negotiate with Nick, but also working with Debbie and the Joe, or not Joe, who was with whoever, Neil.
Yes.
Kind of working with all those different people. But we have stopped seeing her. But the only reason I maintain that she can still do well is the fact that we're not hearing from her herself, and that we're hearing a lot about her from everyone else. Because we heard it from, like, Debbie was very confident in Julia, but we only heard from Aubrey that Michelle thinks Julia is fine too. We never heard from Michelle about her thoughts about any real strategic thing. It's kind of been everyone putting words about her. And I think once she starts, like if she gets more confessionals, we'll definitely hear from her, because she is a great character and she is someone who's thinking really strategically.
Now, you see, I don't dislike Michelle at all. I mean, I don't really like her, but if I were to have to rank, I know a few weeks ago you ranked, the most likely to win, and it was, if I had to rank her, I'd put her probably fourth. One of the reasons I've seen was that, she's playing such an under-the-radar game, but isn't that Cindy? Cindy's been playing a pretty under-the-radar game, and I guess Cindy and Aubrey really didn't come out swinging at the beginning, and she's not that interesting. I think, like I said, I feel like she's the second least interesting of the 7 remaining. So, I don't know. I
sort of, like, she kind of, I like her as well, but I don't see her winning, and I think she does seem like I don't know if she has said that anything that strategic, particularly, like, I think she's aware, and she's not just a ditzy Jeffra or anything like that, by far. And actually, we'll talk about Julia, but I actually think Julia's playing a little bit of at least from what we're being shown, like, seems to be more, yes, she was pretty obvious about her playing both sides, but I don't know, I think Julia's playing a decent game just as much as Michelle is. So I don't think that Michelle's any better than Julia, though. Like, I kind of put them in the same category, and I don't get it either. That I think people are maybe wanting her to win, and I wouldn't mind it because I would like to see a woman win this season, but I don't see that, she is going to win it.
I think a large part of what the love for Michelle is the fact that I think she is playing a better version of what Julia is doing, because Michelle has kind of had all these kind of side conversations with other people, whether or not we see it, but when they're walking to get wood and when they're walking for water and stuff like that, we always see Michelle with groups. Yeah, we're mainly getting the story from Sydney, Julia, and Aubrey, but we kind of see Michelle kind of in the conversations with everyone, and she hasn't burned a bridge. She hasn't, like, I think Julia is dead to Sydney and Aubrey.
Now, I'm not taking a dig at you here, Rossi, but when you state cases for other people in the game, it's much more straightforward. The thing I feel with Michelle is you have to dig deeper to find, not necessarily good qualities, but winner qualities in Michelle. I feel like with other players, you can find winning qualities right off the bat.
If she is the winner, she's definitely not an obvious one in my mind.
God,
anyway.
She's I wouldn't put her at like Natalie White or Sophie levels of like, oh my God, how the hell did that happen? But that would be, unless she gets a major spike in edit. I mean, some people are comparing her to Natalie Anderson, but I think Natalie was a bit more prominent at this point. Not all that much, but
so. Yeah.
So, anything else to add on Michelle, Rossi, Julian, anyone?
Great character.
I enjoy her sort of like she's got a cool accent.
So
she
Danielle
has like kind of a
DiLorenzo
nasal
vibes.
voice. Yeah, she does. She's got that. Is she Jersey or something? She's got that sort of
Jersey or
nasally
Boston
voice
or
that I like.
something?
Yeah,
She's
got
Jersey.
twang.
Jersey,
Jersey
all right.
girl. Yeah, she's cool. Like, and I think she is. I think there's a balance for the women players too. Like to play to not threaten enough that they'll get voted out, but to play enough. So she is balancing that well. So I can give her a little bit of credit. And I think she, like Rossi said, yeah, Julia has sort of burned maybe a few bridges. And so it's definitely possible, hey, depending on who she's there with. But she's not a front runner like Aubrey. And we'll get to, I think Sydney's definitely played a better game than Michelle.
Well, just to jump in, I'm looking at the confessionals this season. And with the exception of episode 3 and 4, Michelle has had a confessional in every episode, ranging from 6 to 2. Yeah, they're not the most, but she's getting consistent amount of confessionals each episode. She's currently
total compared to Sydney's.
She is 23 against Sydney's 21.
Oh,
there you go.
That's
yeah,
interesting.
and that is interesting because I was a bit high on Sydney, but the last 2 episodes she doesn't seem to have had that much screen time. So I don't know what that means, but yeah.
I'm not going to pull a Noah here and go, "Oh, Michelle is not winning this game," but it would.
Oh, Noah loves doing.
It would be a surprise to me. You know, I do think that she wouldn't be the worst winner ever, but I think she would need a substantial spike in edit and gameplay in order to be a justifiable winner. I guess we'll leave it there with Michelle. You know, Michelle, let's jump right into, I guess, Julia then, who is playing a pretty interesting game, and she's really come on in terms of edit in the last 2 or 3 weeks since the merge. We'll start with you this time, Julian. What do you think about Julia? Almost your name. Close.
Yeah, no, look, I give her respect too. There's sort of, you could say they're bland, like a bit bored. I don't know. I feel like these 2 girls are the sort of ones that are hardest to, apart from Jo, to say that much about. Like, she's kind of done pretty well for her age. Everyone's sort of said that before. I don't really have heaps of opinion on her either, though. Like, yeah, it could go either way. I don't know. I definitely give her a bit of credit, though, because she's done heaps better than I thought, but she's not that interesting to watch either.
Rossi, I'm sure, I don't know if you're big a fan as Julia as you are with some of the others, but what do you think about her?
I'm glad she's done something. Like, I'm glad she made her presence, because I forgot all about her, really. She really kind of blended in with the background. I see her as someone who's thinking, but I don't think she's doing it the best way. I don't think she knows what's best, which may come down to her age. I'm not sure, because she was 18, and I don't know. I just think there's a bit of questionableness on her gameplay, readily jumping to the guys without really thinking about how the girls would see it and things like that. So I like her sometimes, but I don't think she's going to be a show-stopping game player or anything memorable down the line.
You know, I've got to agree. I think, you know, playing both sides to some extent can be a good idea, so obviously you're in on both sides, but I feel like she just did it a bit too obviously, because I'm sure this was discussed the week it happened with, you know, when she, you know, willingly decided to go on board with the 3 guys that, you know, those people are so savvy, like Aubrey and Debbie and Sydney, that they are going to see right. Well, Debbie didn't see right through that. I don't know why I just said that, but you know, they saw right through it. And I feel like Julia is the next to go at this point. But I do think that it's, you know, she's had a nice little edit in terms of this, you know, playing the middleman or woman in this situation. So I agree, Julia. We actually have I know someone who knows Julia, so that's kind of cool for me. That's the closest connection I've ever had to
that's cool.
A Survivor contestant. So. That's cool.
Where's she from, actually, in the States?
Massachusetts, which borders so a friend of mine goes to school in Massachusetts, so he's met her a few times, so that's pretty cool for me. So going from, you know, more of the quiet players now, let's well, anything to add on Julia? Anything else, or don't want to jump the gun here?
No, not really much to say. Like, I want to say more, but she really just has come out of the woodwork in the last few episodes. Like, until then, like, because we barely saw anything of the Beauty Tribe pre-merge because they didn't go to Tribal. And yeah, look, there's not, but I reckon she's doing pretty decent as well. So, but I just sort of feel like she'll be an easy vote at some stage because I don't know, she's sort of not here or anywhere. So I think they might just.
Aubrey wants her gone, and Aubrey seems to be the head honcho in terms of strategy right now.
I feel like Sydney's not keen on her either. She's like, Julie's traitor ass. I love Sydney. And, yeah, I don't know about the guys. Like, she's on... Well, Scott's gone now. And Ty, yeah, I don't know. I think she's... Yeah, we'll talk about who we think's going to go, but I think she's a contender next.
Now, going from...
One quick question. Quick thing.
Go for it.
I'd like to add that she officially has less confessionals than Alicia.
No shit, that's crazy.
Alicia has 15. Julie at this point has 13.
See, wow, she had that little from the beginning then, because she has come on pretty... do you have it up right now? How many has she had in, like, the last 3 weeks?
All right. This episode, she had 3. The one before that, she had 3. And then the one before that, she had 1.
So that's... 7. That's almost more than half of her confessionals in 3 episodes.
She has 3 donuts, 4 episodes with 1, and then the rest are 3.
Okay. Man, so let's go from a lesser edited player to one of the more brash and seen players this season, Jason. I'm sure we all have a lot to say about Jason.
This is a big one to talk about.
Big one. Then go right ahead, Julian. Why don't you jump right into it?
Okay, I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say about him because I think that he's not going for a while now, even though it seems like he's on the outs. I think he is going to be seen as someone to potentially work with because I don't think they're just going to stay. I don't know. I think they'll realise he could be used for someone else's game to advance. We're getting really down to the business end now. So 7 people left. That's always a big sort of switch things up vote, it seems. So I reckon he will be... I don't know where he's going to go and who he's going to go with necessarily, but I think he'll be sticking around probably to the end. So I think we're going to be yelling at our screens about Jason and he'll probably be a bit meek. He says he's going to get revenge on Ty, but I honestly think he's just saying that in the preview, but he's not going to actually do anything. I think he's smarter than that to sort of like feel bitter about it because that's not going to help him at all. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
No, go ahead, Rossi. Go ahead. You go first, Rossi.
I just think he's been all over the place, and I don't think that's kind of not like a Tony kind of all over the place because I think Tony had sort of had sensors or something.
You still felt he had it under control. You still felt that he knew what was going on.
Yeah, Tony was everywhere, but he was also really controlled, and I feel like he took the time to judge where he was with every situation or with every person or every alliance, where I feel like he doesn't really think that. He just kind of is in the moment and, deal with the problem now and then deal with the next problem then. And it's not, at this stage of the game, that's not really the best way to go. He could have done that with Alicia because she wasn't going to make the jury, so it doesn't matter. So, honestly, I don't think he's really thinking because I doubt that even Nick would give him a vote at the end of the day.
I feel like Jason, more in terms of the character, he hasn't been that likable. Even when, he's had his couple of nice moments, where sympathetic, where, talked about his daughter who has autism, but it just still feels like he's just such a gruff type of guy, and it's just hard to, kind of latch onto him as a character. In terms of strategically, he hasn't been bad, but I feel that, Scott was more of the strategic player in that pair, which is kind of frightening to think about, but I honestly...
I was just going to say, Scott definitely had a better social game too than Jason.
No, yeah, because when Jason, I definitely think Jason was a lot worse to Alicia in the beginning, but like you said, Alicia was gone, so, that was done and over with, but then the whole sabotage thing and just the way he's been acting. But at the same time, I don't think he'll be a GOAT either. If he gets to the end, I don't think... he'd get Scott's vote, obviously, if he got to the end. But I don't think he'll get to the end. But at the same time, I agree with you, Julian. I don't think he's going this week, and he may not even go next week.
I weirdly see him as a Kelly Wentworth. I don't know. I just see him weirdly going pretty far, but not going to be there. So they're kind of showing him as this really, really villainous character that wouldn't get votes, but I don't think that's an issue that we're going to have to worry about. I don't think he's going to get the votes.
Yeah, every season needs the villain, and I think Jason's been. He's not completely unique, but he hasn't been that typical villain. He's just been this really arrogant and just kind of.
There's a smugness about him that's so infuriating, but makes him he kind of looks to me like, I don't know, this isn't related to anything about his gameplay, but he just on a side note, he looks like a squirrel, like he's got a beaver face or something like that, like a chipmunk. He's sort of just his beard, and I don't know. He's aggravating in some. It's really hard to put down sometimes what gets under your skin about certain people, and that's the thing. That's what makes Survivor. You get a strong reaction from him. So yeah, I think he'll still be utilised in the edit for the rest of his episodes quite strongly. Whichever way it goes, I think there might be some sort of misdirection, making us think he goes. Or that he's got control when he might not, or which other way. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch.
I think a good comparison would be to Russell Hantz in Heroes vs. Villains, where they both kind of thought they had it under control all the time, but people were doing things behind their backs and being overly cocky. Like, I'm thinking of when Russell was talking to Rupert, saying you're an idiot and you don't know how to, you don't know how to play or whatever, and things like that. And I think he's kind of doing that by putting out stealing the machete, the fire, the drama, and the thinking that they have Ty, but he didn't really have them, and kind of things like that.
And do you know what annoys me a lot about them? They seem to think that just because Debbie was voted out, that was such a good move of the sabotage. Like, that was the reason. That wasn't even related to it. It's just like, no, you so stupid.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, that was a great move. Oh, boy, I wish it would have been Sydney, though. Like, their plan didn't work. I mean, it played in their favor, but at the same time, that was not their plan.
Exactly.
So that just kind of really, echoed their almost delusional arrogance and confidence. But so who should we talk about next year? We've got let's go with Sydney at the moment. Sydney, another more of an under the radar. We've had flashes of her. Rossi, let's talk about Sydney.
Sydney, I love Sydney, but she's kind of fallen out of. She's falling out of it a bit. I feel she had a really strong few episodes ago with Nick and his demise, but she's kind of faded out. But I do think she is still a contender because she's may not be getting the confessionals, but she's still in the conversations. She's still always kind of double checking with Aubrey about every kind of move that's made, and kind of Aubrey talks about Joe and his mind and how she had a conversation with Ty, and I think that everything kind of gets back to Sydney, which is really key, and that every conversation that's ever happened kind of always comes back to her. I don't know if she is the winner, but I still think she has a great shot to win, and I could see a lot more coming from her because she is such a kind of a big personality.
Yeah, I definitely think that besides Ty, she's the most universally liked character on this season. I haven't really talked to or heard from a lot of people that don't like Sydney, especially in terms of a character. And what you said there, she definitely is Aubrey's right-hand man, woman, but I feel like a comparison that might end out the season is similar like Chelsea Meissner with Kim in One World, that it just may be like, you were just kind of rode along while Aubrey really did all this dirty work. So I feel like that might hurt her in the end. I think if she gets to the end and Aubrey's not there, I think Sydney wins. I think, like I said, I kind of alluded to, the order of who I thought. I think Sydney has the third best chance to win this game right now. Really, one of the only three people I think can really win this game right now. Julian, what are your thoughts on Sydney?
Yeah, I like the way she's played. I think she's going to have to. I think she's been really calm. She's been just sort of hasn't reacted, but sort of very observant. And she's I don't know. She's made people feel like she's with them all the time as well. Even though she had to eventually turn against Jason and Scott, but that was very clever. The way they didn't suspect it, and I think that she's going to have to turn against Aubrey at some stage too. And hopefully she can do it really well without suspecting it. She seems trustworthy somehow. But I don't know, I think she's got a pretty good chance to win. It's funny because at pre-season, like before this season, I was like, oh, she's just going to be a crazy, I don't know, like I just didn't think she'd go far at all. And just reading her like peptides or whatever, what sort of like muscle things that she goes on about, she's just been so, I don't know, it's great to see like a strong black woman doing so well again in the show, and she's just got sass, but she's really controlled in like she doesn't flip out or anything. I really have a lot of respect for her, and I love the way I want to see her win some challenges because she's been so close, and she's just sort of not quite gotten there, but she's such a good competitor, and I hope she can. I would like to see her win just as much as Aubrey, actually, at this stage. So, yeah.
I mean, maybe after we get to all the players, we can, kind of give our own little rankings of our order, not in terms of the boot order, but the order of likelihood of winning. But we still have 2 contestants left to get to. Let's do the big man of the hour of this episode, Ty. I've, pretty much blatantly said it. Right now, Ty is my winner. I'll get to that a bit more. But Julian, why don't you start us off?
Ty, it would be, he's such a unique, I don't know how to say, like, again, how he's going to go, really. He is on the cusp. I think that he could either be gone next, or he could be, like I said earlier, like curry a lot of favour with, the women and Joe, and sort of go, I reckon he's sort of in the middle still between both. Like, I don't think he's going, I don't know. If he's at the end, I really think you are right, though, Paddy. Like, he's so liked, so he's got a very good chance of winning. It just depends how he argues his case, potentially, as well. I don't know. I think a lot of times, though, to contradict myself, people sort of have their mind up, regardless of what people are going to say now at Final Tribal Council. Ty, yeah, he's been such a joy to watch, and he still is. I'm so glad that he did flip, even though there's debate about whether it was the right move or not. I didn't like him for too long with those guys. I think it's nice to see, even though it was based on a bit of emotion from him, that it was nice to see him going with his heart. And that was such a good... We've got to talk about Aubrey and how well she did sort of approaching him as well. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Ty.
Rossi, where do you think Ty stands in the game right now?
I think he stands on a rocky foundation, just because I did think it was a good move to shift toward the girls group, but I still think he doesn't have a real strong place to stand, and I think he's just kind of in limbo until... I mean, he could be used as a number, but he could also be a big target because everyone wants him out. And I think people are still aware he has an idol because he did not give it away. But I think he's just a target. He's fighting in every challenge, and he's really likable. I think he's just going to... His days are numbered, but I just don't know how many days those are.
Okay, now I guess... The part where I just feel that Ty he made a decision this week was that now a lot of power in this game is in his hands. He has an immunity idol, and he's so, cognizant of, I need to play this right. I can't go home with this idol. And then same thing with his extra vote advantage. We've never seen it played successfully. Maybe he will, but we had that confessional where he said, that I can't go home with either of these, let alone both of them. And as I said before, our last 5 winners have had a hidden immunity idol, so that just could be me thinking that this is going to be a continuing trend. And I don't think another idol will be put in the game, so he has the lone idol in the game right now. And if he gets to the end, especially depending on who he gets there with, I think, almost anyone. I'm not going to say that he'll beat everyone because there could be some circumstances and we don't know what's going to happen. But right now, he is so likable. I just think that Ty's got the power that can move him along further in this game. And if he gets to the end, he will more than likely win. So that's really what I have to base it on right now, his likability and the power that he possesses.
And also, he is doing really well in challenges. And I wanted to say too, like, you know how I was saying before about this advantage thing. If they don't know that he has that and what that means, like they might not know that his advantage is an extra vote, and he manages to keep that under wraps. He seems to be in with everyone to know enough what the plan is. So he said, I need to play this properly. So if he's aware of what the plan is, he could use that extra vote in a really crafty way to his advantage if he's, so I think maybe this extra vote could be used well by him because he seems to be in the loop with a lot of people. So yeah, we will see.
And the other thing is, like, wouldn't Ty just be like such a great winner for the show? This 50-year-old gay Asian man, that obviously, the most unique winner by a lot ever, and he, just who he is, his whole story of being an immigrant during the Vietnam War and coming to the United States, just such a great storyline. This would be I think it would be great for the show if this were to happen. And, I'm rooting for Ty. I feel like the mainstream CBS Survivor Facebook fan right now is saying Ty's the one I want to win, but I just think he's in a good position, and he's a likable guy, and I think a lot of people would like to see him win. So is that all we have to say on Ty right now?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I think he would be a good winner, and it's just like Rossi said, he is still a threat. So he can kind of win a few challenges, and yeah, he's got a bit of power though, like with that vote, and so I reckon it's definitely pretty possible that he could win. So yeah.
When you think about it, say he squeaks by one more vote, and then we've got a potential medevac in the works and a hidden immunity idol. There's
not that
right
much
there.
longer. There's not that much longer in the game.
If he plays his cards right, he can get dangerously close to the end, and then if he gets there, I mean, we'll talk about who we all think is going to win, but he can have a good chance to win. So that leaves us with our last one, who I'm assuming you both think is going to win, and that is Aubrey, who's been... We'll talk about it right now. Rossi, go right into it. Talk about Aubrey.
She's the best because she is giving it in the game, but she's also giving it in confessionals. Like, she's been very poetic and philosophical throughout the whole game, but very methodical. She flipped on Debbie, but it wasn't a thing where Debbie's angry about it. Debbie understood. Debbie's appreciative of what kind of happened. She made a nod to Aubrey when she walked in on the jury and things like that. So I think that her management of everything is just really careful and calculating, and I think that is really unique in the fact that she can flip on her own alliance but still get her alliance back. Very Tony-esque, where she made the move but people still come back to her. And I think she has the best shot to win out of anyone.
Julian?
Yeah, she had such a great episode. She's had those sort of winner quotes. She seems to be, I don't know, she seems to, ever since Neil went, she seems to just be really focused. I don't know, she's just got her eyes set on the prize, it seems like. So, yeah, I reckon that there's something going to happen between her and Sydney, and I'm really interested to see what that is. I assume they're going to not stay together for that much longer, because I think Sydney knows she has to do something soon. But yeah, she's going. Well, she's got a very good chance as well, and I really enjoyed it. And she's got like just those winner quotes, and she's very smart. And I think it's going to. I just feel like, I don't know, kind of how there was that chat in season 30, White Collars, about a blue collar's definitely winning this game. The fact that there's been a couple of like little things in the edit about a woman winning, I do feel like it's going to be a woman. And I think she has the greatest chance. So yes.
I definitely have turned around on Aubrey. You mentioned the week Neil went. That almost seemed like she would just be this, like almost like a tragic character where it just like seemed nothing she was doing was working. Her closest ally had just left the game. He didn't give her his idol. But I think she's really started to come into her own since then. And that Debbie move, it's questionable. But right now it seems like that. I feel like it was almost similar to that. Like, come over to the good guys. I would not be shocked at all if she wins this game.
Go
ahead.
Oh no, I say my comparison between Ty and Aubrey is kind of like a Carolyn and Mike situation, where Mike's win, although I think he kind of deserves it more than Carolyn, but his was a lot more circumstantial with immunity and kind of dealing with the alliances and stuff, whereas Carolyn was very more like process and methodical, and I see that kind of relating to them.
You know,
it just depends who. If there was a final two with those two, I still.
Oh, that would be tough.
It just depends who the jury. Like, it's so tough because Ty's so likable, but Aubrey's played the better game in my mind, like strategically.
For sure.
So it's like, what does the jury want to reward? And like, I don't know if like sometimes like some of the women get credit for some of the moves that they do as well, like Carolyn, for example. So I don't really know. Like, she was seen as cold, though, Carolyn, for some reason. And I can kind of see that to a degree, whereas Aubrey's a lot more probably warm and personable. So it's going to be very, very close if they were in a final 2 or 3.
And the other big difference between Aubrey and Carolyn is that, you know, Carolyn, you know, had Mike, who was, you know, this big alpha male type guy. Aubrey's surrounded by, you know, especially now that it's the 3 guys, or, you know, this big guy Jason, who's not going to win, and then Joe and Ty. It's mostly the women that are pulling the punches. So similar to like Micronesia or One World, season dominated by women, which right now it's kind of, but I feel like she'll probably get the respect for that.
Do you think that because they're not aware of the vote that he has, do you think that he'll have the idea of him having a super idol? Because my thought is like that will keep him longer because everyone thinks he has the idol.
You know, it could be. They didn't mention, you know, nobody. I don't know if there was any confession. I just watched the episode an hour ago, but there was like no one saying, "Oh, I wonder what." You know, Worlds Apart immediately. Tyler went and grabbed Dan's bag, and then Cambodia. Steven told everyone, I guess, but you know, so
I think that's coming in the next episode. There'll have to be some sort of speculation from people, especially now that they know Ty already has an idol, and that he's sort of in a. They'll be like, oh, what's his advantage? Like, because there has to be discussion about Ty as a threat. So
and especially since Jason knows, because if everyone thinks like, oh, he has a clue to an idol, Jason can tell everyone else, hey, you know, if you have the 2 idols together, you know, it's after the vote.
Yeah, so that's right. He'll probably try.
They could.
Jason probably will try and if he does, like, he's like, I want revenge against Ty. The probably way he'll do it is just to sort of say, look at what a threat he is. We already had that discussion a bit with Julia this week on the beach. Like, they were planning to get rid of him anyway. So yeah.
All right. So I think now I've alluded to my list before. How about the 3 of us rank these final 7 in terms of ability to win? You know, to win this game. Not a boot order, but you know, what are the odds that this person will win this game? I don't know if you guys need a chance to think for a second or not. I can go first if you guys aren't ready.
Yeah, you go first. Yeah.
And I'm going down from 7 to 1 here. I've got, obviously, Joe. I mean, there's really no chance Joe wins this game. Then probably Jason next, just because of how unlikable he is. Then Julia. I don't think she'll get there. She'll have a chance to win. 4 is Michelle. I've explained before. I just don't think that she's had the gameplay or the edit to justify a victory. Sydney, I feel Sydney's played a great game, but she would only win if Aubrey or, you know, even Ty weren't there. In a very close second, I'd say Aubrey right now, and 1, Ty. Now, whichever one of you wants to go next.
I shall go, if that's all right with Rossi. Rossi, is that okay with you?
Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. I would also put Joe at number 7, but then at 6 I would put probably Julia, because I just don't see that she could. Very, very unlikely to me that she could get the votes like from a jury and get any respect. And I don't know if juries like to give money to a really young person that often. I don't know why. Then I would, followed by her, I'd probably put Michelle. I think that she's slightly better than Julie, but not that much. And I don't know if she'd get votes. I would actually put Jason in 4th place, just because he's just been a power player, so that can put him a bit ahead, I suppose, in some people's minds. Then we've got a similar final three, I think, with I would put Sydney as third, Ty as second, and who's left? Aubrey. Yeah, she was my first pick to win.
All right, Rossi?
I am definitely a bit different than the rest of you.
Here we go.
No surprise here. We got Grandpa Joe coming in last. He hasn't been around, so we really can't warrant him winning. Next, I have Jason, because he's burned way too many bridges to warrant a win. Next, I put Ty, because I think he's too much of a threat with all these advantages and idols and just being too likable. And I see him just not getting there to win. Like, I think he's got a good shot if he was there, but I don't think he's going to get there, kind of thing. Then would be Julia. Don't have much on her. Third, I put Michelle, because although she's been quiet, she's been getting consistent kind of commentary in the episodes. Second is Sydney, and then Aubrey, obviously.
Yeah, definitely some good takes there. I really like this conversation we had. I really think we kind of painted a picture.
There's a lot of, and it's still quite wide open as well.
Anything
it sort of shows the stuff that can still happen. So, it's 3 more episodes, I think, we've got, and the finale is a longer episode, so still a lot of shit can go down.
All right, now, unless there's anything else we need to add, let's go to our famous Ozlet Show question. Who are the winners and losers from this episode? Rossi?
Oh gosh. The big loser, outside of Scott, obviously, would have to be Jason, and the fact that not only did he lose his best ally, but he lost his idol. And I think that is just...
We haven't really talked about it.
That is just great.
Yep.
I missed that scene, actually, on the first viewing. I don't know. I guess I just wasn't paying attention. And then when I saw Scott's final words and he showed the idol, I was just like, what? I'm like, no way. I'm like, what? Like, when did that happen? But I watched it again, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck was I doing? But, yeah, that was... that was... I think that's just more credit to Ty in that instance, but keep going, Rossi.
I think that was just glorious to see that big of a fall. It wasn't like you just lost someone, you lost everything. And I guess the winner of the week is Aubrey for shifting the tides. She broke the super idol, I think, and she single-handedly saved at least herself and Michelle from being possibly eliminated.
Julian, who do you think were the winners and the losers of this week?
Yeah, I have to agree with Aubrey. As I think you could almost say Ty's a little bit of a winner from it too, because he gets out someone with an idol that was probably going to be his competition at some point anyway, and he I don't know, he sort of, I don't feel like he was in a good particularly position with Jason and Scott, and I don't know if he's in that great of a position now, but I don't think he's any worse off, so I think he's maybe a little bit better off, and also because he's got an advantage. Another winner, those two. The loser, as well as Jason, would have to be Julia, because she was on the out. She thought she knew what was going on with 5 votes. Everyone was going to vote against Ty to flush out the idol and all that, and she was just like, looked like she was just didn't know what was happening. So, yes, she is in trouble.
I definitely got to agree with you guys that Jason is the obvious loser. And he lost his idol, lost his closest ally, lost a lot of power in the game. For my winner, I would say Ty, but, Aubrey right there as well. You said Aubrey broke the super idol. Ty was really the one that I feel broke the super idol, but Aubrey had a massive influence on that happening. So I'd credit them both on that. So that seems to be all we have for this week's Ozlet Show. Rossi, thank you for joining us. Great to have you back again.
Good to be here on such a glorious episode.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Julian, thank you very much. It's good to have you back after that long while.
Yes, it was great, and it was an awesome episode to discuss as well. So, yeah, looking forward to the last bit of the season. I don't know now how I'm going to deal with the stupid off season, because that's almost ahead of us. But yeah, that's then. We've still got some episodes. So yeah, thanks for having me, and it's good to be here.
Yeah, hope to hear from you more in the near future. Just one more thing, though. If you would like to come on to one of these Ozlet shows to debate with your favorite or least favorite Ozlet about the episode, message us on Facebook, Twitter, send us an email here at Survivor Oz.
Contact Colin.
Contact Colin Hilding, yes, and contact him with your favorite apple recipes as well. And so we
one condition: don't be like Noah if you do come on.
Don't be like Noah if you come on, according to Julian. That is the only guideline for Fan of the Week. I mean, do you think Noah's going to listen to this? Really?
No, I think I'm safe with that comment.
You're probably.
Let's see if he picks up on it.
You're probably safe with that comment. I'm sure we'll hear.
Someone will probably tweet it down.
The Taki Ranger will maybe come after us, so yeah, we'd love to have you on as the Fan of the Week. So that's all the time we have for today. Subscribe to us on iTunes, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, check out all of our articles from our great writers, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.